a typewriter. If it's the same typewriter used to create the will, this major piece of evidence would undoubtedly prove Harold Shipman's guilt.
He actually offered that up to us when we went to the surgery, saying, I think this is what you're looking for. Later tests revealed that that typewriter was actually used to compile the will.
But falsifying paperwork didn't end there for Dr. Shipman. Police also uncover proof he used his own patients' histories to cover his murderous trail.
Individuals' medical records had actually been made months, if not years, later than they purported to have been made.
He used them to divert any suspicion from his patients' sudden and mysterious deaths.
It provided a false history of a particular condition, such as a heart condition, which Shipman had created in an effort to support his contention that an individual had died from a heart-related disease.
On the will is more damning evidence.
What we were able to discover was that Dr. Shipman's fingerprint was actually found in the bottom corner of the will. Significantly, there were no fingerprints on the will which had been left by her.
At last, police find motive. But how did Dr. Shipman methodically kill his patients? The toxicology results show high levels of diamorphine, which stays in the body tissues indefinitely. The coroner estimates the amount present means she would have died within 3 hours of receiving the drug. There's only one way that could have happened. Elizabeth Smythe was poisoned. And who was the last person to see her under the guise of helping her?
In attempting to explain the high levels of diamorphine which had resulted in her death, Shipman produced her medical records. On those medical records were entries made by him which tended to suggest that she was an abuser of heroin. A bizarre suggestion given her age and her social standing.
Shipman denies everything. But on September 7, 1998, Manchester police arrest him for the murder of Elizabeth Smythe. But police have no idea how broad the case will become. When word of the arrest spreads, people come forward with more suspected murders.
Once they heard the story of another death, which was published in a newspaper, they would realise it was similar to the circumstances of their relative's death, and in actual fact they would ring the police to report that to them.
The number of possible cases grows at an alarming rate.
Within 2 weeks we were investigating 24 deaths, and by the time the middle of August came round, we were actually investigating 60 deaths.
What had kept people from coming forward for so long?
Many of the people interviewed, it turned out, had harboured concerns about the death of their relative, going back for years. Many weren't actually prepared to voice it because they thought they were in isolation.
They were unwilling to question a respected doctor, and Shipman used his position to gain easy access to his victims. Evidence collected suggested how Shipman chose his targets coldly and randomly. When they thought they were being given medicine, he injected lethal doses of diamorphine.
People put their total trust in their doctor. Any person would just hold their arm out for that injection, wouldn't they? They wouldn't say, excuse me, what is that injection for? They just hold their arm out, as my mum would have done.
Police seek proof, with those not cremated. It means nearly a dozen exhumations.
Many a time as I stood there in the mornings, very cold mornings, when it was a kind of cold that went through your bones, it crossed my mind, you know, he should be here and realize the awful thing he has done. Maybe it would bring him to his senses.
The Reverend hopes Shipman will confess, but he never does. Police investigate a staggering number of deaths, over 500. It is more than anyone imagined. To determine which ones might be murders, they review each patient's records. They find the same story over and over. For police, it is a final and strangely curious clue.
People usually die alone or in the company of relatives, but not in the presence of the general practitioner, as a rule. But Dr. Shipman was frequently there.
The dead were usually found looking peaceful.
As a pathologist, I know that people don't usually die like that. They're found dead on the stairs, on the bedroom floor, just outside the front door, all sorts of places, but very rarely sitting peacefully in an armchair, as many of Shipman's cases were.
In the end, a government report attributes a staggering 345 possible murders to Harold Shipman. He is the most prolific serial killer in the United Kingdom. But prosecutors try him on only 15 deaths. On January 31st, 2000, Harold Shipman is convicted on all counts and sentenced to 15 consecutive life sentences. The question remains, how could it have gone on for so long?
The notion of a doctor killing his or her patients was just unthinkable. It was unthinkable to us, as fellow doctors. It was unthinkable by the police. It was unthinkable by the people who live in this town. And I honestly believe that was the main reason why Shipman evaded detection for so long, because it didn't seem possible.
That sense of respect is very powerful.
Even up to the trial and the conviction of Shipman, many people in Hyde still believed him to be innocent, still thought it was a conspiracy, that it was a setup, and that Shipman was innocent. I imagine that there are still odd ones in Hyde who still believe that Shipman was innocent.
But John Shaw did have the courage to go to his friend, Detective Stan Egerton.
When I spoke to Stan, I also said to him, I feel really